Right, let's not mince words here, gentlemen, because this movie deserves none whatsoever. Borderlands is 102 minutes of complete, unmitigated dog feces. A wretchedly terrible, horribly written collection of lame, bloodless, tediously protracted action sequences strung together by the most paper-thin, nonsensical excuse for a plot, revolving around a group of one-dimensional nobodies who barely even qualify as characters, played by some of the most laughably miscast actors in cinema, and relentlessly hammered home with appallingly bad CGI and forced, dated, cringe-inducing humour that's about as funny as a terminal cancer diagnosis. In short, it's an absolutely terrible film that shames the very concept of video game adaptations, somehow managing to feel rushed and oversimplified, but also sluggish and dull at the same time. A movie that barely lasted an hour and a half, but honestly felt like it would never end. A movie that I've got the dubious honour of reviewing right here. So abandon all hope, ye who enter here, because we're about to venture into the living nightmare that is Borderlands. Okay, so whatever passes for a plot centres around bounty hunter Lilith, played by a bored and embarrassed looking Cate Blanchett, who acts like she signed up for a completely different movie, but we'll talk more about that later. Believe that! Anyway, after acting like a generic Hollywood tough girl for a while to prove how hard she is, Lilith is contacted by a powerful business tycoon named Atlas. Atlas wants her to travel to the planet Pandora to recover his daughter Tina, who's been kidnapped by a rebel faction, and in return he's willing to reward her handsomely. Pretty soon she's on the trail, where she runs immediately into a robot named Claptrap, voiced by Jack Black, who is, without a doubt, the most annoying fucking creation to come out of Hollywood since some asshole convinced Aquafina that she could sing.
Remember the swamp? Remember my song in the swamp when I was like, wham, 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 wham.
I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the video game version of Claptrap either, but at least he wasn't too intrusive and even got a few decent one-liners from time to time. This version is like someone locked Jack Black in a sound booth with no script and no prep time and just yelled, "Be funny!" And it went about as well as you might expect. Anyway, wouldn't you know it, Claptrap happens to know exactly where Tina's being held, and after travelling there to rescue her, Lilith discovers that her captors are actually trying to keep her safe from Atlas. See, it turns out that Tina is a cloned recreation of an ancient alien race called the Iridians that once dominated the galaxy, and who left the secrets of their advanced technology behind in a giant vault beneath the surface of Pandora. Only a true Iridian can actually open the vault, which is why Tina was created by Atlas, so that he could steal all the technology inside. That's right, Tina is quite literally the girl who's the key to everything.
Fuck.
So anyway, they go on a couple of fetch quests to find some keys because there's literally no other way to move plots like this along, and they eventually find the vault, but oh no, Atlas shows up to crash the party. Who could possibly have predicted this? Then Lilith turns into a fire demon angel thing and kills all the bad guys because it turns out that she was actually the girl who's the key to everything all along.
No way!
And then she takes Atlas into the vault and leaves him there to get eaten by a monster. And that's it, that's whatever passes for a plot for Borderlands. You know, thinking about what to criticise in this movie makes me feel like Boogie at an all-you-can-eat restaurant. There's just so many options that I don't know where to begin. I mean, on a purely aesthetic level, this movie sucks in ways that actually made my eyes hurt. The CGI is complete monkey shit, the kind of thing you'd expect from an early 2000s made-for-TV sci-fi movie, with very obvious green screens and completely laughable animation. Combined with cheap, fake-looking sets that look like they were thrown together a couple of minutes before shooting began, and costumes that your average cosplayer would be embarrassed to put on, and you've got all the makings of a visually depressing movie. How the fuck did this thing cost $120 million? You could literally have made Godzilla Minus One 8 times over for the cost of this turd. The story, like I said earlier, feels like a paper-thin excuse for the next action scene. It's basically just a series of fetch quests leading to the end goal. Find the girl, then find 2 keys, then combine them all together to open the vault, and fight off some generic bad guys along the way. That's basically all there is to it. Also, I get the distinct impression that there was originally a much longer cut of this movie that got butchered in the editing room, which is why there's weird out-of-place narration from Lilith to help plug the very obvious gaps. The film relies heavily on action to keep the audience engaged, but even that doesn't generate much interest because most of the set pieces go on way too long and the complete lack of blood, violence and consequences kills any sense of stakes. From what I understand, the original plan was to make this movie R-rated, which would have been much more in keeping with the spirit of the games. As it stands, the action scenes become just another tiresome thing that you have to slog through. The characters are either annoying or boring as fuck. Or both. I get the feeling that they were trying for a Guardians of the Galaxy style team-up movie, but the difference is that the Guardians were all interesting, well-written, fleshed out characters whose personal history and motivations actually had an impact on the plot. Their banter was witty and fun, and they all sparked well off each other. Most of the gang in Borderlands get almost no backstory or development, especially guys like Roland and Krieg who are just kind of there. Tannis adds nothing to the story and could easily have been left out, and as for Tina, she's such a simplistic caricature with no actual human emotion that it's tough to feel much of anything for her. She doesn't seem to care too much about anything that's going on around her, and as a result, neither did I. Lilith, on the other hand, falls neatly into the category of tedious, tough-talking, overpowered girl boss, a trope so thoroughly played out by now that it makes the whole movie feel weirdly dated, like it should have come out 5 years ago when this stuff was at its peak. And to make matters worse, she's played by a horribly miscast Kate Blanchett. Don't get me wrong, Kate's definitely a good actress, but playing a tough-talking, hard-as-nails bounty hunter just really isn't her thing. And at 55 years old, she looks tired, bored, and kind of embarrassed to be there, and I can't say I blame her. A character like Lilith really feels like she should have been played by a much younger and more energetic actress who can inject some much-needed fun and enthusiasm into the part. Blanchett just sucks all the life out of her scenes. Ultimately, I think this film's disastrous opening weekend speaks for itself. Nobody was excited to see it, the cast didn't seem to want to be in it, and released as it was into the August dumping ground, it's pretty obvious the studio had no faith in it. Which begs the very obvious question, why even bother making this thing in the first place? I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't fucking care. My only advice to you is don't waste your money on it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now!